Hey, I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight on Facebook. I'd like to welcome everyone here. A special great friend of mine, special guest tonight. I'd like to talk to him. I worked with him a bunch of years, and he's a great guy. He's got a heck of a he's done stuff that I didn't even know. Johnny Pizzi from Boston. He's been an unbelievable career. He's going to his 10th year, running the Lots of Laughs Comedy Club at the China Blossom, and he's done 30 years. One of the founders of Giggles Comedy Club. That's in Saugus, Massachusetts. He's gone and entertained the troops overseas. 19 years performing in Vegas, performed in Montreal, all over Florida. He's also performed impressive the clubs out in LA that I haven't done, and I wish I could someday. The Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory in LA, Catch a Rising Star, the Improv. So he's had an unbelievable career. I'm going to ask him different stuff tonight from comedy, the Boston comedy scene in the 80s and the 90s, and some of the big names he's worked with. We're going to have some fun, man. We're going to have some laughs. Johnny's a great friend of mine. I first met him at a Dave Radigan. Dave Radigan's a booker and a comedian. He booked a theater. I forget where it was, and I booked a theater. Johnny was
out near Leominster, like out that way, near Gardner, Leominster.
Yeah, that's the first time I met Johnny, and then we wound up getting friendly, and we started booking each other. He's come up to Rhode Island and done shows, and I've gone out to lots of laughs, and had a lot of fun with Johnny. So here's Johnny Pizzi. How you doing, Johnny?
Hey, Johnny boy, how are you?
Doing all right. I got a haircut Monday. I'm happy. I finally got a haircut after 2.5 months. I got it short.
You look fantastic. And I want to tell you, before we start, my daughter absolutely loves you. She loves your wife. She just loves John Perrotta. You know, she really does.
That's you. You got a great family. Oh, your sons and your daughter. You got a great family.
Thank you, my friend.
And also, I like Bill too, who works at Lots of Laughs.
Yeah, Bill's great. Bill does it. You know, he is so professional. I mean, he wears a tie, and
he's great.
The people at the China Blossom, they love him. The owners, oh my God, they love him. You know, and he does such a great job along with my daughter and my boys. You know,
I really miss performing. I perform there like 3 or 4 times a year. 4 times a year, I have a ball over there.
Yeah, I have you there as much as any comic. You know, some of the big names that I have, but Johnny Perrotta, you come in there, you always do a phenomenal job. People love you, so it's always great to have you there. And I love the guys you bring up. You know, what's his name, Joe.
Rock and Joe Hebert.
Rock and Joe Hebert, and we got to get Ace Aceto with you. Maybe we're gonna have a Rhode Island comedy night.
That'd be cool.
That'd be great. Yeah, you get some great people in your neck of the woods as well. You know.
Yeah. So Johnny, you started doing comedy 36 years. So you started in the 80s, which was the comedy boom, and Boston. It was big. What was it like back then when you started?
Well, I tell you, you know, when I started out, I was a mailman, and so my first routine I did at the fabulous and infamous Ding Ho. They used to have open mic on Wednesday nights, and I got friendly by accident too with Lenny Clark. I was his mailman in Cambridge. And so I got to be friendly with him, and you know, and I used to go and sit in the back and watch and try to learn what's going on. I had no idea what this stand-up comedy was, but all my friends and relatives, oh, Johnny, you should try comedy. You know, you're always the life of the party. So I went in one Wednesday night and I did a mailman routine, and that particular Wednesday night, Lenny was not there. It was Barry Crimmins, the late Barry Crimmins, and about 20 people from the post office came, and I went on to 10 minutes, and it couldn't have went any better. It was great. And oh my God, I thought maybe 2 weeks later I'd be on the Tonight Show, you know? And then, so I couldn't wait for the next Wednesday night, and I knew Lenny would be there. So, you know, cause I figured I went back the next Wednesday, Lenny was there, and I was all ready to rock and roll. And John, it went horrible. It went horrible. And, you know, I was so embarrassed See, because, in those days you thought that if you didn't do well, that nobody would want to be your friend. Like I thought, oh, Lenny's going to think I suck and he's not going to want to, but that's not how it was. They like you for who you are, But of course, being insecure, I didn't do comedy again for 2.5 years.
Wow.
And then 1984, my father had just passed away, and I made a commitment to, I said, nothing's going to stop me from doing this. And after I made that commitment, I was committed, and every chance that I had to get on stage, I would. Sometimes I'd be on, get out. I would be out until 1, 2 in the morning, but I'd still be up at 5 o'clock to go to the post office. It was a wild ride, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I got to perform with some amazing. I mean, the people. I'm so fortunate. I got to perform with people like Jack Gallagher, Joe Lasky, Jimmy Tingle, who else? Dennis Leary, John Panette, and of course Lenny Clark, Steve Sweeney, Don Gavin, some of this. I mean, I was there, as a spectator, the night that Stephen Wright was discovered by the Tonight Show people.
Is that right? Well, that's interesting. Wow.
John, it was the most amazing night. Lenny Clark was hosting that night, and I was driving him there. And I went to pick him up about 5:30, and the poor guy had a really, really, really rough night. And so I went out and tried to find a place, because there was no Dunkin' Donuts in every corner in those days. Finally got a place, got coffee, took him to the Ding Hole. Place was jam-packed. And sure enough, you could see where Fred DeCordova was sitting with his wife and another couple. And all the it was amazing. And all the comics were going on. You could see they were nervous. Look who's in the audience, Fred DeCordova, right? And so all of a sudden, everybody was doing okay, and then it wasn't until when Stephen Wright took the stage, within 30 seconds, I mean, they were on the floor laughing. He did, like 10 minutes, hysterical. And I'll never forget, John, Fred DeCordova gave Stephen Wright his card that said Tonight Show with a microphone, It was like the Holy Grail, After everybody left, Steve was holding this card in his hand. And I said, I didn't even know Stephen Wright at those days. I worked with him many times now. But and I said, can I hold that card? And it was like having the Holy Grail, like oh my God, it was like bright light coming out of it, And
Tonight Show.
And John, he did the Tonight Show a week later. He did it twice
amazing.
in 1 week. And when I tell you, it was amazing, to see him at the very beginning, it was just absolutely incredible. And that set the Ding Hole, like, now that became like the hottest place, and it was subject of a great, when stand-up stood out.
Yeah, I saw that. That was great.
Yeah, great special.
Yeah.
And I only played the Ding Hole maybe luckily 10 times, because I was totally nervous about playing it, because that was, when you're first starting out, it's a little bit overwhelming at times. But those guys, to see a lot. I saw John Panette at the very beginning. I did the very first show he ever did with him. And then I worked with him for a whole year, me, him, and Nick DiPaolo at Dick Doherty's Comedy Vault for 1 year every weekend. And I got to be friendly with Nick DiPaolo, who I think is absolutely one of the funniest guys in the country.
Oh, yeah.
And, I love him. And so, that kind of set me up, and I used to say, being a mailman, I couldn't be out every single night. I had 3 babies at home. So I used to ask the host, can I host? Because I knew that as a host, you get more than, 8 minutes. You would get time in between, And of course, when you first start out, John, as you do your 8-10 minutes. Then after that, you're like, oh God, what do I do now? But, that's how you learn. And it makes you write, it helps you write and stuff like that. So, it's a great journey,
Yeah. Did you work with Joe Rogan, Bill Burr, guys like that?
Yes, I did. They used to come up to Giggles when they very first started, and Bill Burr, who I absolutely adore, such a great guy. He's never forgot where he came from. And, and Joe Rogan, I was there the night Joe Rogan did Giggles, and, and Mike had to tell him that he was a little bit too dirty because we have like an older crowd at Giggles, and they don't like unless you're a really big name like a Lenny Clark, you can get away with pretty much anything you want. In those days, he wasn't. He was just starting out too, but he was funny. But he was a little bit too dirty, and Mike, I could see Mike was a little bit nervous about telling a 7th degree black belt, but he was so cool. He goes, he goes, no worry about it. I'm moving out to LA anyways in a couple of months. And he goes out to LA, and before you know it, he's in a TV show called Radio something. I forget what it was. Talk radio. I forget what the name of the thing was.
News radio.
News radio. Yeah, news radio.
Yeah.
Becomes a big star, and look at him today. He just sold his podcast, for $100 million, John.
I heard that.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah, so I didn't get to really know him that great. He may remember who I am. He might not.
I was supposed to work with Joe Rogan.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Way back when I started out, I was going to MC a show, and he was the headliner in Rhode Island somewhere, and the show wound up getting canceled a few days before. I didn't know who he was, and then he goes on and becomes this big thing. Crazy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it certainly is. And I used to go when Lenny and I became, like I said, very good friends with Lenny, which I still am today. Thank God. There's nobody nicer in this business to everybody than Lenny Clark.
I'll tell you, he's a great guy. I got to work with him when you booked me 3 nights in a row. That was one of the greatest weekends. Friday night we had the benefit for the Wheelchair Strong Foundation, and Jimmy J.J. Walker was there, and you and Christine Hurley. That was a great night. And then I worked with you and Lenny the next night somewhere else, and Sunday night, like 3 nights in a row. It was awesome. Yeah, he's a great guy.
That was great. Lenny, that's one of the things, and that's why Lenny is so loved, even when he goes out to LA to this day, because even the doormen, he remembered all their names. He never forgets a name, and he treated everybody, with respect, whether you were you pushed a broom or you were a big name comic. Everybody was treated the same. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about Lenny Clark, because he is just so nice to everybody. And, I will tell you this, John, in all my years doing this, he has been so wonderful to me. So many personal, wonderful things. He got me into Vegas. And of course, once people open a door for you, then you got to kind of keep it open yourself. If you suck, then, it's not good. But, thank God, Steve Shrepper from The Sopranos, he was the guy, the general manager of entertainment at the Riviera, and he, thank God he liked me. So I ended up working there for about 18 years, and then at Tropicana with Bob Kephart, and then today Harry Basil runs it and does a great job. And I was supposed to be out there first week of August this year, but everything, who knows what's going to happen, John, with everything. We don't know.
Yeah, that's why we're turning to Zoom here to do some stuff, because for now, until things get back,
yeah,
hopefully it won't be forever, but
yeah. Today when we were talking about some of the great comics. I know you've worked with some great. I know you opened up for Bill Burr, right? Didn't you open up for Bill? Yeah,
a couple of times. That was really exciting.
Yeah. And I know and there's a guy that just doesn't forget where he comes from. Look at that. He worked with you years ago, didn't forget who you were, and was grateful for the work that you gave him. And he said, "Hey, come on, you're gonna open for me." And you're opening up in a theater with 1,200 people, right?
It was 2,000 a show, 2,000 people a show. We did 2 shows that night. But the best thing, I went and saw him at the Wilbur Theater. I went backstage. I didn't go on that night, but I bought up. They had posters, Bill Burr, and the Wilbur, and I bought a poster. And he autographed it. He said, "Thanks for all the stage time." Now that really made me feel good. I got that hanging up, and that was really something,
Yeah, isn't it great? I love guys that never forget where they came from. And those are the type of guys, And something, as Boston, such a hotbed for comedians. and
Oh
such
yeah.
great Steve Sweeney. I have done, probably 5,000 shows with Steve Sweeney, Don Gavin, and I got to tell you something. Over the years, like when you first start, you're nervous about having to follow this one, that one. Oh my God, I got to follow that one. You get, but boy, oh boy, then you get confident. You go, I'm good. I don't mind. What? It may be great, may not be, but who cares? But Don Gavin, when you have to follow him, I do. We did a benefit for we do a benefit every year, John, for the Children's Hospital, and so this past year we had Don Gavin, and it was so funny. At one point I was going to have to follow him, and I was panicking. And then Tony V, and who's a great comedian, and then it was like, well, maybe Tony has to follow him. So both of us are looking at each other, and we're like, ah. And it was then all of a sudden Christine Hurley couldn't make it, so it ended up Tony went on. I followed Tony, and the funny part about it is, like, there's 500 people at this thing, right? And it goes really, really well for me. And I'm like, yeah, it went really well. You get off stage, and Don Gavin's on for 1 minute. And like, if you asked anybody in the place who Johnny Pizzi was, they'd be like, who's he? Because Don Gavin makes people forget, who the previous comics were pretty fast, He's that, he's just that tremendous,
I saw him perform in a club in Cape Cod, must have been in the 80s. It was him, Don Gavin, Dave Fitzgerald, and what a show. Don Gavin, Dave Fitzgerald was great. Don Gavin, I thought he was one of the funniest guys that I had ever seen in my life. Then I went up to him and I talked to him. I shook his hand. I thought he was awesome. And then I didn't know, years later, thanks to you, I got to work with him one night with Don Gavin, Joe Yannetti, yourself. That was a great night too.
Yeah,
I appreciate all you've done for me, because you've helped me along the way too. I appreciate it, Johnny. It's been fun.
Thank you, John. Well, let me just tell you, if you weren't the great comedian that you are, maybe it happened, might not. But you're not only a terrific comedian, but you're also one of the nicest guys in the business. So
Appreciate it.
I'm very fortunate that I've made some really good friends in this business, and you absolutely are one of them. And I hope our friendship continues for many, many, many years.
God willing, right? God willing.
God willing. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, I've been fortunate. Like when we were talking today, we're talking about our favorite comedians, and I think we both mentioned Richard Pryor, who I would have loved to have seen him live and work with him. I never got that chance, but boy, oh boy, his Richard Pryor live DVD, concert was just one of the greatest performances ever,
Oh, yeah.
and he's just tremendous. And Sam Kinison, I was very lucky to be able to work with him. I actually even hired him. Imagine that.
Hired Sam Kinison?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was right after we did the HBO Young Comedians with Rodney Dangerfield. And quite a story. And so I got to, and one of the great things is, he had the Outlaws of Comedy, and with Sam and Mitchell Walters, Carl LeBeau, and Jimmy Schubert, and I've got to work with all those guys, and I'm so
that's awesome.
And let me tell you, Carl LeBeau, and right now Carl's going through a little bit of a hard time with an illness, and I love him. He's one of the funniest guys, and a great guy. Oh my God, I've worked with Mitchell Walters in Atlantic City at the Borgata, and I've worked with him at the Tropicana in Las Vegas. And over the years, over the past 5 years, I've become very, very, very good friends with Jimmy Schubert, who, by the way, if anybody's listening to this podcast, the Zoom,
you want to call it.
if you guys want to see one of the funny, let me tell you, Jimmy just put out his Zero Tolerance album. It's on iTunes. And when I tell you, and I mean this, it is one of the funny. Do you know that it went on at number 4, and it went to #1 in one day,
Wow.
past everybody,
Jeez.
past Bill Burr and there's a bunch of other big name guys I could, but
Wow.
right to #1. And when I tell you, and he that Zero Tolerance, $9.99 on iTunes, it'll be the best $10 you ever spent. It is hysterical,
Wow.
Yeah, and Jimmy's just one of the funniest guys on the planet, So very, very fortunate in that aspect. I've talked to a lot of people that have worked with Richard Pryor, telling me stories how he'd go into the Comedy Store when he was getting ready to go out on the tour to practice his material. He'd go on stage, and he'd just talk for like an hour and a half, nothing. Go back the next night, a little bit. Go back the next night, a little bit more. By the end of the month, he had his special. But to watch it grow, and like I said, listen to comics telling me they would go every night just to watch him.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, John. I mean, I would have loved to have been there. I got very fortunate. I got to meet Robin Williams twice. Went to dinner with him, and
I love Robin Williams. Oh yeah.
And he's another guy that here I am talking to him, and I think I called him Mr. Williams, and he went, "Call me Robin," and we talked for an hour, him and I, and there was like, and you walk at the end of the night when you go home, you're going, oh my God, I was just with Robin Williams. I just had dinner with her, and I'm feeling like, wow, Robin Williams. And then I get home, and it's like, hey, put your underwear in the hamper. Wear you when you're done with them. Don't leave them on the floor. So, yeah. So it's
Robin Williams, I would have loved to have met him.
Oh, yeah. We went to, after his show, he did a big concert in Lowell at the Lowell Memorial Auditorium. Then his manager invited us to dinner, and we went they kept this restaurant open just for him. And so it was his entourage, and like there was like 10, 12 of us. And we go in, he's already seated, and here we have it. We were all walking in. And as we're walking, he goes, Christ party, table of 12, Christ party, table of 12, right here. And then he come over like he was the waiter. And it was the funniest thing, John. He put a napkin over his arm like he's the waiter. And he's like, hi, can I help you? Tonight on the menu, we have the baked stuffed penis, out of this world. Try the stuffed scrotum. It's fantastic. He just did a whole thing, hysterical. And he had just done an hour and 45-minute show at the Lowell Memorial Auditorium.
He never shut off. Never shut off, right?
Never. And what I love, John, not only was he funny with us, he went into the kitchen with the cooks. He was with the waitresses. He jumped over the bar with the bartender. It was like nobody wasn't good enough. You know what I mean? Like he
had so much energy, Robin Williams.
Oh my God. And obviously a tragic ending to an amazing career. But John, when you think about it, he knew that making people laugh was his what he was born to do, and everything. And when he realized that at some point he wasn't going to be able to, what in his mind it was like, I'm out of here,
Yeah, it was a shame. It was a shame.
It was very, very sad.
Oh, yeah.
What a creative genius and an Oscar-winning, actor. So
he had some great roles. He made some great movies.
Yeah,
great movies. What was Sam Kinison like?
Oh my God! I'll tell you a quick story. Right, so we he had just done. He was the hottest thing in the country. HBO. You live in a desert. Remember that? You know what this is? This is sand. It's going to be in 100 years. It's going to be sand. So anyway, he does. He's the talk. So he's on tour, and he comes into Boston to Nick's Comedy Stop, and there's 500 people there, and he goes on, and after 5 minutes, they're running to the door. They're running out the door. Because he's very controversial, talking about Rock Hudson, and that's the AIDS time, and but he was controversial, he was funny, but people were like just running out. He got fired, and he had no work. And I had this little Chinese restaurant in Everett. I used to book comedy called the Broadway East. And Mike Clark calls me up. He goes, hey, you want to have Sam Kinison Friday night? And this was on a Wednesday. I went, I can't afford Sam Kinison. He goes, oh, no. $200. I went, what?
$200 for
What?
Sam Kinison.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so anyways, John, I go to pick him up at the airport. I mean, at the hotel that Friday night about 6:30, and knock on the door, and his girlfriend answers. She must have weighed 100 pounds. And she goes, I can't wake Sam up. So I go in, and I'm all excited. I'm going to meet my first big HBO star. I'm so excited, Johnny. So I go over, and there he is lying face down on the bed, just his pants on, no shirt. And I'm shaking him, Mr. Kinison. And he gets up. Yeah. I go, you got a show in you got a show in an hour and a half. He goes, okay. And I'm like, this is my HBO star. And he gets his shirt. He smells the armpit. He puts it on, smells his socks, puts his socks on. He says, honey, do we have any Moe? We drank it last night, Sam. We have any more Coke? We did it last night, Sam. And so anyways, we get in the car, we drive to the Broadway East, and now I'm going to see, I only had seen 7 minutes of him on HBO like everybody else. Now I'm seeing 45 minutes of him, just hysterical, crazy, hysterical.
Crazy. Yeah, he was a riot.
I hang out with him afterwards. We took his girlfriend home. It was the night before he was leaving to go film Back to School.
I love that movie. I love Back to School, him and Rodney.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and he told me his whole life story, how Rodney, how Rodney, discovered him and gave him that big opportunity. But anyways, so finally, like six months later, he's on this huge tour, big buses, tour buses. He was playing the Paradise, and I called Lenny Clark up, and I said, Lenny, could you get me a ticket? I'd like to go. He goes, yeah, absolutely. So I go there. I stop at the liquor store. I buy a big bottle of Moe because I know he liked Moe. And I went in. The tickets were waiting for me, and I went in. I went upstairs to where all the rooms were upstairs, and I walked. And I was looking in all the rooms, and finally I see him. But he's got. I'm not going to mention the rock group's name, but they're the biggest rock groups around, and a few other big name comedians. And there were like lines of Coke on the table, like you wouldn't believe. So I go to walk in, and Lenny jumps up to stop me, because he knew I didn't do that and stuff. I go, no, Lenny, I'm okay. I got something for Sam. I walk in, and Sam has got the bill rolled up, and he's sitting down, and he's ready to lean over to the table. And I go, hey, Sam, I got you, I bought this for you, and it was a bottle of Moe. And he went, yeah, thanks a lot. And he totally dismissed me, kind of blew me off, which I didn't care. Because look all the people that are in there, all these big rock stars and big names. So anyway, I give him the thing. I walk out. There's a big long corridor. I walk out the door, and I'm walking down this corridor, and I hear, Johnny! And I turn around, there's Sam in the middle of come over here! And I walk over to him, and he gives me a bear hug, John. Squeezed me. And he said, I'm really sorry for what I just did to you in there. I go, Sam, it's okay. He goes, no. It wasn't right. It was rude. He goes, man, I dedicate this show to you. Okay? Wow. I go, wow. Ooh. I go to my seat. I'm up front row. Kyle comes out, crushes. Lenny crushes. And then Sam comes out with the bottle of Moe, shit-faced. And he comes over to the microphone. He goes, I'm supposed to do an hour-and-a-half show, but that Johnny Pizzi got me fucked up. Oh my God, it was hysterical, And then I've seen him over the years. Every time he come to Boston, I go, backstage, and then I got to work with him in a little town right near Franklin, out near Foxborough. We got to work together. I can't think of the name of the town, but Larry Miles came from the Plainville.
Larry, I love Larry. He's a great friend of mine. I haven't seen him in a while. Great guy.
Yeah, I gave Larry Miles his name.
Did you?
Just for his comedy history. We were doing open mics at Stitches, and his name was Larry Hagendang. Larry Hagendang.
I had heard that. Yeah.
And so everybody used to call him Larry Hagendas. So that day, for some reason, in the paper, when I was going through the Sunday paper, because it was a Sunday, and I saw, you know, the guy Buddy Miles, was it Buddy Miles, the drummer?
Yeah. Yeah.
So for some reason, the name Miles stuck in my head, Myles. I said, why don't you change the name to Larry Miles? And he looked at me and went, oh my God. I go, what's the matter? He goes, my sister said that to me today.
Wow.
And he goes, that's weird. He goes, and I'm going to tell you something. You and my sister saying that, like, he goes, my name is now Larry Miles. Isn't that funny?
Wow.
Yeah.
He's a great guy, Larry.
Yeah, I've known, oh my God, Larry, what a lady killer. When he started out,
He was a good-looking guy back in the day. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Those blue eyes would knock any girl over. Oh, my God. Girls loved them. Girls loved them. But, yeah, he's down in Florida. He's probably still doing his comedy, doing Uber. I don't know what he's doing now, but, yeah, I've known Larry since we all started out together, back in the day. And we'll say just when this goes on Facebook, hi, Jack Walsh. Jack Walsh was there starting out with us. And, Jackie was pretty much ahead of us all. He was very funny. And unfortunately.
Great guy. Jack's doing well now, right? He's doing pretty good now?
He's been in the hospital for a year and a half. Never mind, I got to call him tomorrow.
Yeah.
I got to call him. I can't wait but he can have visitors. You know, he had the coronavirus.
No, he had that, and he got through that.
Yeah. I mean, what that guy's been through, he's a modern miracle. He's a walking miracle. You know, I pray to God that this guy gets better and he's able to do comedy again. And, because Jack is one of the nicest guys.
He's a great guy. I talk to him lots of laughs. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Jack, and I prayed for that kid because he's been through so much. How he's not lost the will to live is beyond me. But nobody told me his son's having a kid and he wants to be around to be the grandpa. You know, and what a great that was so cool. You know, to hear that. You know.
Yeah.
But he's a very Lenny Clark loves him. When he's healthy, he's Lenny Clark's right hand man.
He was telling me, I talked to him lots of laughs, and we had a nice conversation. He was telling me how he was friendly with Lenny and different things, and he went up on stage. He did a good job, really good job.
Yeah. He had got out of comedy. You know, what happened was he knocked up his girlfriend. He had just gotten divorced, and then he started going out with this other guy, and so he did the right thing. He got married, ended up having a couple of kids, and I used to see him every once in a while for about 20 years, just once in a while, but. I always loved the kid, and then he come back into comedy, and he wasn't doing too well. I tried everything I could to get him, into places, but it wasn't going. And we sat down, we worked out a 10, 12-minute routine, and he started doing pretty good. And then he started, then he got friendly with Mike and Lenny, and he actually became Lenny's personal valet. And which opened up a lot of doors, and Lenny helped him with his comedy, and he was doing very, very well for himself, And unfortunately, the hips had to be replaced, the knees had to be replaced. He's like the bionic, guy, But I hope and pray that Jackie gets back into the groove of things. He's a great kid. We love him. We love Jackie.
Definitely, yeah. Yep. So, and you performed before the troops, Johnny. Where did you go when you did that, and who'd you work with?
Well, and talk about Larry Miles. Larry and I were working together, and we happened to be working together in Vegas, and so I said, because he used to work. He got in with the people that we used to book the entertainment for the for the USO, and I said, oh, I'd love to do that now. People would already automatically assume, well, this guy works at the post office. How's he going to get? But something, in my 40 years in the post office, I performed all over the country, everywhere, and it never stopped me. If I had to take the time off, I got it, even if it was without pay, but I always took the time. The post office, never once in 40 years did I have to cancel a gig and say, I can't, I can't, my post office. I'll never forget one time, I worked in Vegas, and then I come home, and then I got a call they needed somebody to go to Laughlin. Laughlin's like a little mini Vegas. There's 11 casinos in the Colorado River. And I knew, once you say no, you go to the bottom of the list. So I knew you never say no. I said yes, and I called in sick every day. it was June, like it was right, May into June. It was 124 degrees in Laughlin. I couldn't leave my hotel room because if I got a tan and went back to work, they would have been like, yeah, right, you were sick, But thank God they approved my sick leave for the whole week. It was great. It was fantastic. Some of the supervisors I had were really, really great friends, became good friends of mine, would come to shows. And, thank God they would help me out. God, I'm looking at these. I have these Italian eyes, John. The circles. I look like a raccoon. I've been getting the best sleep of my life over the past 3 months. 8-9 hours a night. Look at me. I look like a raccoon. Now, somewhere in the Black Mountain Hills of Dakota, there lived a young boy named Rocky Raccoon.
I know this pandemic has been tough, Johnny. But things are getting better. Things are getting better.
So anyways, Larry Miles talked to the guy. He came to see me in Vegas, and he approved it. And so I went out, and I was working with this guy, comedian AJ Jamal. If you ever Google him, he's hysterical. He was on the last season of In Living Color. Actually, he was good friends with I can't think of the other guy. But anyway, we went out to Sarajevo, Kosovo, and Bosnia on a 10-day thing, all through, all over, what does that call that? Yugoslavia, I don't know, all that area there. And it was just the greatest experience of my life, from small little pubs to big halls, and I, for the most part, I did okay. I'm not going to say, oh, it was unbelievable. No, I did good. But one thing I always do when I'm in a situation where I'm not familiar, I always wear a nice jacket, but in the jackets, I stuff magic stuff in there, never thinking that I'm going to be using it, but it's always just in case, because when it's a place I don't know. And sure enough, when I felt that the audience was going down a little bit, I pulled out a couple of phenomenal magic stuff that they loved and kind of saved me a little bit too, And
did that magic trick with me and my son when I performed at Lots of Laughs. I still have it. I keep the card with me all the time.
Oh, yeah. That's
that
not
card
a great trick.
that was a great trick. I still don't know how you did that, but that was a great trick.
After the shows, I would go out into this like big lobby, and I'd sit down with the soldiers, and I would do card tricks for like an hour and a half, just doing card. And they were so appreciative, John. They were so appreciative. They were ripping their stuff, their stripes and stuff off their arms and handing it to me. I still have it. Here's a story, right, John? So a lot of these bases over there are they're like Western towns, right? They're dirt roads, a lot of them and stuff. So because my body clock was off, I would be up I'd be up at 2 o'clock it'd be like 2 o'clock in the morning there, and I'd be wide awake because it would be, I don't know, maybe it was 8 in the morning here or whatever. But anyway, I used to always go to the commissary, for a snack. I'd be hungry because my body clock and my metabolism was all up. So I'd walk. It would be like a mile, okay, a mile walk. Now, what I forgot to tell you, when you get to all these bases, you go to the commander's office, and they shake thank you, and they give you a citation, thanking you and all this. So I would never read them. I said to myself, I'll read them when I get home. It'll be something nice to read. These frameable citations they would give you,
Nice.
So anyway, so every night I go to the commissary, 2 in the morning, and as I'm walking, all the soldiers, they would salute me, and I'd salute them back, and I go, how nice is that? Here I am going to get my Twinkies and chocolate milk at 2 in the morning. And as I'm drudging through the dirt roads, like I said, a mile, it was like a mile and a half walk. Every time I saw a soldier, they would salute me, and I'd salute them back. And I go, wow. Then I'd go to the commissary, I'd get my Twinkies, my chocolate milk, walk back the hour and, the mile and a half. So finally, the day before I'm leaving, I had a little downtime, and I read one of my things that they gave me. I didn't realize that in every base they gave me a commission, like an honorary commission, like a lieutenant colonel. They
Commissioned
give you like,
officer.
yeah, right.
Wow,
And
that's
I
cool.
said, can you believe it? My last day on the base, I realized I have this commission, honorary lieutenant colonel, whatever it was. I said, geez, if I knew that a week ago, I would have sent the soldiers over. I'd say, private, get on the commissary, get me Twinkies and chocolate milk. That's an order.
I know, right?
But it was such a great experience going over there and going through Sarajevo. It's beautiful country and mountains, and I never had seen a mosque before, and I saw them all over the place. It was tremendous. And I was supposed to go to Afghanistan, and 2 days before I'm leaving, my daughter was having a first grandchild, and so she said, Dad, please, can you do me a favor? Can you stay home and be there for the first one? I said, sure. And I called up the company, and they said, no problem, we'll send you out in a couple of months or whatever it was. I said, great. Then they stopped booking entertainment, because it was tough, because when they reduced the number of soldiers there, you're going into places with 20 people in a crowd, because it they go from 100%, 80%. I was there at 60%, and it was just going lower and lower, so it wasn't feasible anymore. But it was a great experience. I thank God for that experience. Just one of the great experiences. I mean, I've been very, very fortunate, having some great experiences, meeting people who I never thought I would meet, working, with people I never thought I'd ever work with. And, just a very fortunate person to be.
You've had a really great career, a lot of great stuff. What was it like? I always wanted to do Vegas. What's it like performing in Vegas? Must be exciting.
Well, I tell you, John, so the first time I worked there was at a place. It's off the Strip. It wasn't on Vegas Boulevard. It was off the Strip. It was called the Maxim. It's now another name for it. But so this place, the Maxim, was me and Lenny. This is when Lenny got me in, and was me. I was the opening act, and then there was this black kid, the middle act, and Lenny was the headliner. It was a Monday night. Now there was 2 shows at this place every night. It was in the heyday before 9/11. And so there was a 6:30, I think, and an 8:30 show, a 7 and 9, something like that. So I went on first. Now, I didn't realize, most people that worked there knew, that first show on Monday was a horror show, because the crowd was very, very. Those are the days I didn't know how to work to really older crowds. Now today I'm an expert at it, thank God. Many years of trial and error. So anyway. And plus, it's a room full of older people that have lost money. They're not happy people. And John, I go on and I did 15. The next guy did 20. Lenny did 35. 15 minutes. I did not get a laugh in 15 minutes. The guy that
those are tough nights. Nights.
And the guy that ran the room watched me, and of course he was judging me on this show. He didn't even stay in the room. The middle guy, the guy that went on after me, got 1 laugh in 20 minutes. And Lenny went on, and, for the first 15 minutes, he was, and then finally, he got them right towards the end. He got them. But they were a tough crowd. And John, that guy judged me. I thought he was going to fire me right there. And do you know that every show after that, every single show, knock on wood, it went fantastic. I had people that flew in to see me, friends that said, wow, that was a great show. You did great. But the guy judged me on one show, right? Thank God I wasn't fired. But anyway, then the next time I went out, I worked in the Riviera. Oh my God, the legendary Riviera. And I'll never forget, John, the feeling when the first night I'm there, I go out and I look, and right there on the marquee on Las Vegas Boulevard, Johnny Pizzi. And I'm like, I'm standing in the middle of the street. I almost got hit by a car. I'm trying to take pictures. And, but what if I'm like, oh my God, geeky Johnny Pizzi from East Boston, grew up in East Boston. You know, here he is. His name is on Las Vegas Boulevard. Ah, I looked down the street.
Phenomenal.
It's all names of big name entertainers. You know, Wayne Newton, Dorothy Hamill was there, and this one, that one, and there's my name, Johnny and Lights on Lost. And those are the nights we did 3 shows. We did the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Friday and Saturday with 3 shows. Every other night with 2 shows, and yeah, it was pretty wild. And then after 9/11, everything changed, and it was like 1 show a night. It was tough getting back. God knows what this pandemic is going to do to Vegas. God only knows of what's going to happen and how everything is going to end up now. You know, getting
Vegas
back
and everywhere else, everywhere. You know.
Yeah. I did Reno. I went up to Reno, and that was weird because when I went up there to Reno, there were like 4 casinos that were closed. I mean, you walk around and you see like a whole block, and it's one building and it's closed, and there was 4 of them because of after 9/11. You know, everyone went down the toilet. You know. So anyway, yeah, playing in Vegas, it's just incredible, you know, just incredible. What an incredible situation. My daughter used to come out every year with her girlfriends.
Wow.
I had my both boys, my whole family come out 1 year, and then from Vegas, we went to the Grand Canyon and the Hoover Dam and Arizona.
Wow, that's great, Johnny.
Yeah, and so that was a lot of fun. My daughter used to come out with her girlfriends every year. They did it about 7, 8 years, whatever. But yeah, there's nothing like it. And I don't know. I was supposed to be out there in August, first week with Jimmy Schubert. I was there last year with Lenny. I think Lenny's going to be doing Jimmy Kimmel's room, I think. But anyway, you know, if I play there again, great. I love it. And if it doesn't happen, hey, I did it. You know.
Yeah.
I did it. You know. What
It's
else
unbelievable.
can I say, you know?
18, 19 years in Vegas. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And Steve Shripper, when my boys, who are the biggest soprano fans on the planet, one day I didn't really see him that much there, you know. And then one time when my kids were there, I saw him walking, and I go, "This Steve Shripper." And they were like, "Oh my God, Bobby Bacala," you know, and they were so excited. And we didn't get really to talk to him. But then, you know, it's so funny, about 4 or 5 years ago, I'm doing this benefit in Brockton, and he was the host. It was me, Christine, Kenny Rogerson, and I can't think of the other person, but
Kenny's a funny guy.
Yeah, Kenny's brilliant. There's no question.
Yeah, I worked with him a couple of times. He's great. Yeah,
and I got to spend, you know, I talked, and I brought my son John Michael with me. We talked with Steve Shripper for 4 hours, and he couldn't have been nicer to me. And I gave him his phone number. Call me anytime you want. You know, could not have been nicer to me. And my son John Michael was just thrilled. You know.
Yeah, that's great.
I just thinking now that it's funny. I brought my son John Michael to Steve Shripper, and then when I did the private party for Bill Belichick, I brought John Michael.
Tell that story. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. So Bill calls up Lenny Clark and says, "You know, Lenny, my son, doing a bachelor party for my son, but I don't want a comedian, you know, and probably because he had his whole family from all over the country coming up, you know, for this bachelor party. And, you know, you got to be careful with a comedian when you have people from all over the country, and, you know, you got to be kind of be careful." So he said to Lenny, I'd like to get a magician. So Lenny goes, "I got just the guy for you." And an hour later, who calls me up? Bill Belichick, right?
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. So
greatest coach of all time.
Yeah. So I answer the phone, like, you know, "Oh, how you doing, Bill?" "Oh my God," you know. And so he said, "No," he gives me all the information. Thank God that I do close-up magic and I do stage magic, because so I brought my son with me. We flew there, put us up, And he asked me what I wanted. I said, you know what I want, Bill? 4 tickets. I want to sit in your seats, and I want to see you after the game. He goes, done. He goes, done. Right?
Oh.
So then I get there, and I go to the restaurant where they're having this. And I said, Belichick party. They said upstairs. And I walk in, there's 30 guys, right? And I walk over to Bill like I knew him all. Hey, Bill, how you doing? Follow me. And you know the car trick I did for you and your son, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I did that for Bill and his son. And they went
really?
wild. They went
Awesome.
wild.
That's a great.
And then I had 30 guys looking over my shoulder, watching me doing close-up. And then I did, like I said, I did about 20, 25 minutes. And then Bill said, hey, would you do me a favor? Would you get down there and do this for the wives and, the girlfriends? I said, of course. So downstairs, another room, is with all the wives and the girlfriends. And Bill's daughter, who was getting married 2 weeks after his son, was down there. And I did another thing. And then we walked down to his house. And I think he owns, 4 houses on Nantucket. And so as we're walking, I say, hey, Bill, can you sign this? I'll sign anything you want, whatever you want, a football, what do you want, anything you want. Couldn't have been nicer. Stops in the middle of the street, and he takes out a wad of money. He goes, here, take this. I go, Bill, I don't want it. I don't want it. I told you I just want the tickets. He goes, you got the tickets. Take this. And I was arguing with him. And then finally, when Bill Belichick yells, take it, you take it. So I didn't even count. I just threw it in my bag and went to his house. And I waited there because I didn't want to eat with everybody at the restaurant. So I stayed there. And there was at that time, it was about 40 or 50 of his relatives. And I was doing little card tricks for them. And then finally, they had a big tent set up, beautiful stage, lights. And they came about 9 o'clock, but most of them are half in the wrappers. They've been drinking since 6 o'clock. And I did almost about a 45-minute to an hour show on the stage. And then I stuck around a little bit. Then Bill drove me back to the hotel, and he hugged me more. And that time together, then I think I'd been hugged in, I don't know how many years of marriage, right? So, but he couldn't have been nicer. I still text him today, and he always gets back to me.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So I go to count the money. So when I call Lenny Clark up and I go, hey, Lenny, it went great. He goes, oh, great, Johnny. Thank you. You make me look good. Thank you. I go, but he gave me money. He goes, I hope you took it. He probably gave you a $500, tip. So I said, I didn't count it, Len. I said to my son, go get that wad of money. Let's count it. And there were 25 $100 bills.
What?
Yeah, imagine that.
2,500?
$2,500, yeah.
Holy Jesus, Johnny. That's unbelievable. You got to hang with the greatest coach of all time.
Yeah.
What an experience. And you got paid pretty good. You got tickets to the game and the seats.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
It was, John, it was, like I said, it was one of those dream come trues that you never thought that would happen. And then it happens, and it's just great. Like I said, believe me when I tell you, I've been very, very lucky, working all over the country. I still get down to Florida. I do the 55 and over condo circuit whenever, I get calls to do that. I go down there. I tell you, John, what, a lot of times people go, is he a magician? Is he a comedian? Well, actually, I'm a comedian, but I do magic. But I've always been a stand-up comic. Yeah. That is what I do. But I've also have a love for magic, and it's always come in handy. And you know something? I get to perform at the Children's Hospital once or twice a year for these kids. Okay, and I do magic, and it's the greatest thing in the world. I spent 3 months. I spent 3 months at 9 years old at the Children's Hospital, so I know what it's like to be in a hospital for 3 months.
Did you have rheumatic fever, Johnny?
That's correct.
Because I had rheumatic fever when I was 9 years old.
Me too. Yeah. You too. 9 years old. Me too.
9 years old. Yeah.
I call it romantic fever now, but John, I had my 9th birthday at the Children's. So the thing is, when they asked me, my friends Vinny and Eric, hey, you want to do another, want to do a show for the kids. And believe me, I'm not the world's greatest magician by any means. I have tons, and if I show you around my room here, I have tons and tons of magic stuff because I love it. I mean, it's a hobby,
I've seen you do. It's been great. I've seen your magic, and I love it.
I love it, and I enjoy doing it. And it's funny, John. Sometimes you know how it is. Sometimes you go, oh boy, I gotta do, I'm doing the comedy, I gotta do them, It's nice to break it up once in a while. Sometimes I like to do a show and go, I'm just gonna do magic, and I have built-in comedy in the magic, and and I do some phenomenal. I go to magic conventions all over the country, and I learn all kind. I've met the greatest magicians in the world. Name a magician, I've met them. And I've got to, and I've worked with Matt King, who's fantastic, and Michael Finney, who's tremendous, Paul Kozak, tremendous, Jimmy Schubert. I'm gonna tell you something. Jimmy was a magician when he first started. When I met him 5-6 years ago at the Borgata, I was doing card tricks for him after the show, and he goes, "I got to tell you something. I used to do magic, and now I'm like, oh shit." But guess what? He got back into it. He is so big into magic now. He passed the test for the Magic Castle, and I'm so proud the fact that I kind of inspired that for him to get back into it. And he loves the magic. We go to conventions together, So it's
awesome.
It's like a hobby. But you know something, John? My love is stand-up comedy. I love it. And you write a joke and you go on and people laugh. It's like writing a song that people enjoy. So. Yeah. Sometimes people stop in the street and they'll go, "Hey, you know that joke you did?" And you go, "Oh, I haven't done that for 5 or 6 years. I'm going to do it tonight." So, anyways, I've just had such a great, fun career, and I got like I said, on a regular basis. I mean, at Giggles, Giggles is like the top notch. There's nothing like Giggles on the East Coast, east of the Mississippi, and there's Giggles, and then there's everything else down below. There's, the Kowloon and lots. Yeah. But with Mike Clark, the people that work there, I mean, the biggest names, they've all worked there, and to be able to work with all these great comedians, it's fantastic, on a regular basis.
You've had an unbelievable.
Kenny Rogers and Steve Sweeney, Paul D'Angelo. There's nobody like Paul D'Angelo.
He's great. Yeah, he's great.
He's phenomenal. I mean, here's a guy that nobody can follow. You can't follow Paul D'Angelo. He's tremendous. And very talented. He's written like 4 books. He's a painter. He actually put a sitcom together. I still think that if he pitched it today, I think that he could do something with it, because Paul does a great job, and I've been friends with Paul since the days of this comedy club called Stevie D's, and that's the first club that made me a regular, which was a big deal.
Oh yeah, of course.
Big deal. So thank God. Now we all want this pandemic to end. We all want to get back to work. We all want to see each other. And so hopefully all this stuff dies down, and I could have you back at Lots of Laughs, and then see you up in Rhode Island, and just hang out with some really great people.
It'll come back. It's just a matter of when, We'll see,
It'll start off small, but I think maybe by the first of the year, I think maybe it'll start to really, really start rocking and rolling again, So, but we just got to be patient. We all had to take this little time out, and see what goes on from here. But Johnny, thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm doing this to have some fun, and with the pandemic going on and everything, it's a good time to. I found out more about you tonight. How many times I saw you at gigs? We talk a little here and there, but tonight. And today I talked to you tonight. I found out a lot of stories, stuff I didn't know. So it's been great talking to you, Johnny. Great. You got anything else you want to say before we wrap it up, Johnny?
All I want to say is I can't wait to get back. I can't wait to see all my comedy peers. I can't wait to again, be in your graces. And I know the last time we did a show together, it was fantastic at that Chinese restaurant.
Lemongrass. Yeah, that was an awesome night.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I
had so much fun that night,
Yeah.
And so that was great. And hopefully, we do that. And I hope everything goes well with you.
Yeah.
And please give your lovely, lovely, lovely wife a big hug for me. And you got great. Your family is just absolutely fantastic. I got to meet your son with his beautiful wife. They live
Girlfriend.
in,
His girlfriend.
his girlfriend. Okay. Well, the one that lives in Mexico, right?
Yeah, in Mexico City. Yeah, it's his
Mexico
girlfriend. Yeah.
City. Yeah,
Oyuki.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful. Oh my God. You can't take your eyes off her, you know?
I
Yeah,
know,
she's
right?
beautiful. Yeah, gorgeous. So, but anyways, thank you so much for having me, John, and I hope we can do this again.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for coming on, Johnny, and hopefully everybody knows you or doesn't know you. You had some interesting stories of Sam Kinison we covered, and Robin Williams, and
Yeah.
Lenny Clark, and all these, Jack Waltz, everybody. It was great talking to you, Johnny.
Yeah, you know something, John? Well, so what we'll do as we sign off, I'll play a little song that maybe for the moment, maybe might be a good song for the moment.
All right.
All right, let's see if we can make it work. Here we go. Ready? Here we go. Ready? Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us, only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no country. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. And no religion too. Here we go, John. Imagine all the people living life in peace. Ooh. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one.
Johnny, great job, Johnny. Great job, man. I love that song. That's one of my favorites.
Me too, Johnny. Well, thanks again, buddy, and I hope to see you real soon.
All right, Johnny, we love you. You had an unbelievable career, and it was great covering it all tonight, and I really appreciate you coming on with me. You're a great guy. You're the best.
Thank you, buddy. You too. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, Johnny.